Hi everyone, Edie Summers here, and I just wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about, the concept of refusing to rush. I refuse to rush throughout my life. Did you know that stress is even more damaging and harmful to our health and well-being than we even previously thought it was? And I remember when I heard this wasn't too long ago that this new research came out around it. It kind of reminded me that lately I've been really feeling like I've been rushing through my life. And I think especially when we get used to life, if you've been alive long enough, you have routines, you have certain things you like, certain things you don't like, certain things you do, certain things you don't do. And that's my cat in the background, by the way. And I think it's really important. It's important to me, and I hope it's important to you too, to really enjoy your life, experience your life. And I personally refuse to rush through my life anymore. I think when we're young and everything is new, it can feel like, because everything is new, life feels really slow, often, sometimes too slow. But I think what a lot of us experience as time passes on is because we become familiar with things, time starts to feel like it's speeding up. And it's really important to me, and I hope it's important to you too, to not let life pass me by, not let life pass us by. And I just personally refuse to rush through my life anymore. So I've been doing things on a much slower time frame lately. I haven't been getting as much done, but I feel a lot better. I'm sleeping better, and that's super important. My energy's better. There's so many things that we need to think about when it comes to our well-being, whether it's energy or sleep, self-care, health. And, these are topics that for me are super, super important. And I think that they are for a lot of you as well. So I think some of you may already know this, but I'm going to share some of my stories around why health and well-being are so important to me and why it's so important to me to go at a slower pace. First of all, I feel better when I go at a slower pace. Now, that's not to say that I'm not a driven individual. I'm actually really driven. I even wrote a book. You can see it there on my screen, The Memory of Health. That took me 10 years to write. I finished the book. And yes, 10 years might seem like a long time. That might be the slow pace part of it, or the refusing to rush. But I did finish it, and I'll share more about my story and why I wrote that book. But I'm someone who developed health issues in their early 20s. And for me, that was a big deal because I was young. And before I developed what we call chronic fatigue, or even I was diagnosed later with CFS. But people can have chronic fatigue, by the way, for many, many different reasons. I was someone who had a lot of energy. And also, again, like I was mentioning, when you're young, time tends to go slower. And I was at that stage of life, I was 22, where life still felt pretty new, especially because I was in college. I definitely felt like life was going at a pretty slow pace, although it was very full when I was even younger than that. And then, of course, in college, things were kind of new all over again, right? And again, that can kind of slow things down. But for me, I developed health issues. I developed chronic fatigue kind of right at the height of being a young adult. And I have to tell you, it was a real bummer. I had a ski accident. So I was out skiing, and I was skiing with my dad. And it was kind of a snowy day, but it was also an icy day on the slopes. And I'm someone who skied a lot. I was super active. I was always doing something that was related to physical activity, whether it was skiing, dancing, horseback riding, walking, running, jogging. You name it, I was probably doing it. And then, so I was on the slopes with my dad, and I I wasn't actually using. I don't think I was using my skis. I was using, I think, my mom's skis, or maybe I was using my mom's boots. I can't remember. But basically, I took a turn on this icy slope. And this is going to sound really painful, but my leg didn't turn with me. And so I essentially broke my knee. It was very painful. And, I am the kind of person that tends to fall. I fall off horses. I have fallen skiing many times, and I actually broke an ankle beforehand. Actually, someone ran into me and I broke my ankle because of that. But so it's not like I wasn't used to falling. And, when you're doing things, when you're active, when you're out there trying and doing things, you're going to have accidents. But this one was life-changing. Now, the fun part is that I got to be carried down the slope by these really cool ski paramedics. And this is not my first time also that I was carried down the slope by ski paramedics. Again, when I broke my ankle when I was younger, I also got to have that experience, and that was kind of fun. But, and I was probably initially in pain, and then your body kind of goes into shock. And so I didn't feel all of the pain until I got into the emergency room. And it's a long story, but my knee was like a balloon. So it was really painful. And later found out that I had torn all these ligaments. I had torn what's called my ACL. I had to have arthroscopic surgery, which was really painful. They put me out for surgery. And again, I was 22. So things were pretty new in my life, right? Like, this was a new experience. It's my first time having surgery, my first time in being in that much pain. When I woke up from surgery, I don't remember the surgery, but I woke up from it and I started screaming because I was in so much pain. So it was really, really painful. And then they gave me all these pain medications, and I could barely move. I was on crutches. My leg was like straight. Like, I couldn't bend it at all. And I was a dance major at the time. So I was really scared. I was in massive pain. They put me in physical therapy about 3 weeks after my surgery. And again, I was souped up on all this pain medication. And then they wanted me to start taking like about 6 to 8 ibuprofen a day. And it turns out, I found out later, that I actually can't tolerate prescription drugs. I can't tolerate all these like synthetic pain meds, including ibuprofen for the most part. And that's something I go into great detail in my book, because I'm actually very sensitive to synthetic things. And that's one of the things that causes chronic fatigue for me. But it was also the stress of the surgery. Stress, major stressors can cause chronic fatigue. Viruses can cause chronic fatigue. There are a lot of different reasons that people can develop it. Multiple sclerosis, lupus, fibromyalgia. It's tied to many different conditions and situations. Going through massive stress can do it, like divorce, trauma. And I've been through a lot of those too. So, there are so many stories that I share in my book about my experience through chronic fatigue and being diagnosed with CFS. And I have a lot of stories related to it, but I was in physical therapy for about 9 months, and I got my knee only to about 90 degrees. So again, here's my leg after surgery. Like, I couldn't bend it at all. And I got it to 90 degrees after 9 months in physical therapy. And they told me, that's as good as it's going to get for you. And so, on top of, actually, I had developed chronic fatigue by this point. I was sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day. I was scared. I was really scared. I was in a lot of pain. My knee was stuck at 90 degrees. I thought, well, I'm not gonna be able to dance. Like, what is my life going to be like? So the reason I share all of this is because those were a lot of stressors that happened to me. And that was kind of the beginning of one of the major stressors in my life. Now, I've had a few of them, and we all have. most of us have been through trauma at this point, from this modern world that we're living in. And this is another topic that I go into great detail in a course that I have coming out. I'm coming out with an app, and in that app is going to be a course on how to thrive and manage stress and build energy in living in this modern world. For me, that was one of my first big stressors. I've had a couple others too. I've gone through sexual abuse when I was young, and I've gone through domestic abuse as a spouse in my 30s, and so those are some other stories that I share in my book. And again, we all have stress, right? We all have trauma. We all have stress, and so what I've learned is that, first of all, stress it changes your nervous system. It can affect your immune system. And the thing about stress is, like I was mentioning, we're realizing more and more how detrimental it is to your health and well-being. And so what I want to talk about is how important it is to manage stress, even if you've been through great stress, whether it's an accident, trauma, divorce, abuse, whatever it is. It's so important to manage stress, because otherwise it kind of takes over. It kind of takes hold of your brain. It takes hold of your body. It will run your life. It will run your health. It will run your well-being. It will decide how you're going to feel, unless you decide that you want to go at a slower pace. And sometimes, yes, we have to address trauma and stress in other ways. I really love to practice a lot of self-care. And so in my book, The Memory of Health, I talk a lot about different self-care tactics and really how I had to start addressing not only my physical well-being, because again, I developed chronic fatigue after going through surgery and taking a bunch of prescription drugs for pain and all this ibuprofen, and it really messed up my liver. Again, I don't detoxify those things very well. I found myself in this strange new world of not feeling well at the age of 22. And I had to learn how to take care of myself, how to manage stress. And it's a long story, but what happened was, since my knee was stuck at 90 degrees and they basically told me that's as far as you're going to get. And I remember I was in physical therapy with a policeman. He had been in an accident. So we were both in there because we had been through surgery for knee surgery. In my case, I'd been in a ski accident. In his case, he had been in a high-speed chase, and he was in the front seat of the car, and he went through the front of a building. And so that really messed up his knee. And his goal was to get to his knee to 90 degrees so he could ride his motorcycle again. So that's where he was okay with being at 90 degrees, and again, that's right here, right? So again, I was here originally, and then I got to 90, and then I got stuck. He was okay with staying at 90 degrees because he wanted to ride his motorcycle. So that worked for him. For me, again, I was a dance major. I wanted my knee all the way back. And so not only was that really scary for me at the age of 22 to think that not only was I being told that that's as far as my knee would recover, but I also was exhausted. I had chronic fatigue. Like I said, I was sleeping all the time. And then they switched me to a prescription anti-inflammatory. And then I developed depression on top of it. So talk about stressor on top of stressor on top of stressor. I had to make some choices about what I was going to do, how I was going to move forward, and what was important to me, and how could I fix the problems that I was having. How could I fix my knee? How could I get full range of motion back in my knee? How could I fix my chronic fatigue? I didn't know how I was going to fix my chronic fatigue, but what I did know is that what was currently happening for me in physical therapy in terms of the prescription anti-inflammatory I was on, and the fact that I had stopped going to school because I was so depressed. I literally stayed in bed for a week. And I talk about this a lot in my book, The Memory of Health. I felt like I was falling down this deep, deep, dark hole of depression. And I knew it was the prescription drug that I was on. So I took myself off of it. Now, I don't always recommend that because sometimes, depending on what you're on, you have to wean yourself off. So it's probably best to work with a practitioner. But for me, in my situation, I took myself off of it cold turkey. And I went to see a naturopath because my goal was to get my full range of motion back in my knee because I was a dance major and I couldn't imagine not dancing anymore at the age of 22. And so the naturopath helped me. He gave me some natural alternatives to try, like arnica gel, using natural anti-inflammatories. And he sent me to a natural health food store. And I went into the natural health food store. It was my first time in there. And I bought what he told me to buy. And I actually met the person who was the manager of the supplements department. And it turns out that later I got a job at that store working in the supplements department. And she ended up being my boss and friend. So that trip, my first trip into the natural health food store, was the beginning of a positive experience for me in my life. And it turns out what the naturopath recommended to me really helped me. And over time, continuing to work really hard in physical therapy and on my own, getting myself off of all anti-inflammatories that I was being prescribed and taking my health into my own hands, I was able to get my knee all the way down so I could use my knee again. And over time, even though it took about a year of really rehabilitating my knee and leg, and I had to build all my muscles up again, and I had to start with beyond physical therapy, I had to start walking again. It was really hard and painful. It took me forever to get my strength back. But I was able ultimately to start dancing again. And then as a result of having such a great experience with the naturopath and all of the things that he had prescribed to me that were natural alternatives, natural anti-inflammatories, and again, I go into great detail in my book, The Memory of Health, I decided to get a job in the natural health food store where I'd had that great experience to learn more, because I wanted to understand about what had helped me and maybe what could help me more. Little did I know that working in that store helped to improve my energy. And so this is a topic that I go into great detail in my book about holistic health, alternative health, and even integrative health, because I'm a big proponent of integrative health. I also talk about a lot in my book about self-care and stress management. Now, this comes full circle to what I wanted to talk today about, which is refusing to rush throughout your life. So we all have points in our life where we might have an influx of stress, but it's also everyday life, modern living has become really stressful all on its own. So not only do we have these stressful events that happen to each of us, it could be an accident, divorce, trauma, abuse, natural disasters, but we also are living in this modern world where we're being constantly inundated by kind of low-level stressors, right? And I feel like life has gotten out of control. Now, for some of you who are younger, who are still growing up, maybe you're not feeling this way, but since mental health issues are on the rise, I'm guessing that a lot of us are in the same boat. And since what my hope for you, just like my hope for myself is, and for all of us, is that we can find the courage and the fortitude and the love for ourselves to slow the hell down. Let's slow down and actually live our lives. I don't want my life to pass me by. I don't want to not enjoy my life. And I refuse to rush through my life anymore. I just absolutely refuse. And I wish the same for you. And again, stress is inevitable, but please remember and understand and realize that too much stress, whether it's constant notifications from your phone or this constant push or drive from the external world to always be on, always be available, always be striving. It doesn't mean that you can't have goals and have drive. I have all of that. I mean, don't we all? I mean, all of us want to be happy and be fulfilled. I really believe that we all wish for that for ourselves and for one another, but we have to not allow these external stressors and external forces determine the quality of our lives. And because we're realizing more and more how much excess stress, so a little bit of stress is good for you, but excess stress is really, really bad for you. It's really bad for your sleep. It's really detrimental to your health on so many levels. And we have so many chronic conditions that are on the rise. Not only is chronic fatigue on the rise, burnout is on the rise. Both of those are on the rise, both at home and at work. We're seeing everyone I know is burning out. People are having trouble following through on things. Again, mental health issues are on the rise. But so many other health issues and wellness issues are also on the rise. Did you know that in the US alone, 1 out of every 2 people have at least one chronic condition? 1 out of every 2 people, that's half of everyone living in the United States alone, let alone the rest of the world, has at least one chronic condition, if not more. Type 2 diabetes is on the rise. Kids are developing chronic health issues at younger and younger rates. Cancer is on the rise now for young adults. Kids are developing asthma and type 2 diabetes at really young ages. So many other chronic conditions that are really serious are affecting so many of us, and chronic stress is behind so many of them. So again, my wish for you is to take back your life, take back the quality of your life, take back your agency when it comes to your own health and well-being, and refuse to rush, refuse to let stress get the best of you. So many of us are chronically stressed, and it's become the new norm, and it's not normal. It's not normal to feel constantly stressed out, to feel like all of these notifications that are coming at us are sort of, if we don't allow for that downtime and self-care time and taking back our own time and going at a slower pace. Now, some of us, sometimes it's fun to go at a faster pace. And, if you're out playing, everyone has like a different idea of what it means to kind of not allow external forces and stressors to get the best of you. But whatever it looks like for you, my hope for you is that you can really find a way to really get back in the flow of life and experience it. And that means experiencing new things and not letting stress get the best of you. I hope that you can sleep better and improve your energy. And these are all topics that I care very, very deeply about, and I've learned so much about them. I have a lot of training and experience in how to improve energy, help for burnout, help for chronic fatigue. I know a lot about holistic well-being, how to improve sleep. This has become my life because it's so important to me. And so when I share that story about, me developing chronic fatigue in my early 20s, I was 22. So now I am 55. And taking care of myself, prioritizing my well-being, prioritizing self-care is a way of life for me. And it's something that I have to do every day if I want to feel good. It's something that I have to do every day if I want my energy to be as good as it can be. So that is why it's so important for me to take care of my health and well-being and to manage my stress. It helps me sleep better. It always helps my energy. It reduces brain fog. It reduces symptoms for me dramatically. Now, we are all going to have bad days. And for people that deal with chronic conditions, I can completely relate. I actually have a really thriving community. If you have chronic fatigue for any reason, not only can you, if you want to, read my book, The Memory of Health. It specializes in the topic of chronic fatigue. Took me 10 years to write, has tons of theories in there about chronic fatigue, what might cause it. And I even dive into other chronic conditions like CFS, fibromyalgia, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, even cancer fatigue. If you have chronic fatigue for any reason, or even burnout, then that book is written for you. I also have a really thriving community if you have chronic fatigue for any reason. And it's called Chronic Fatigue Support on Facebook. We have a public page. So if you just type in facebook.com/chronic fatigue support, you can join us in our thriving community. We also have a private group where you can even post anonymously. So many people in my community have several chronic conditions where either chronic fatigue is a factor. A lot of people have chronic pain in there. A lot of people I know are dealing with chronic symptoms, and chronic stress isn't the only factor. Of course, there can be other reasons that people have symptoms, but I just really wanted to talk about, kind of the role of that stress can play in kind of taking away the quality of life that I think we all crave and are really wanting. And quality of life is so important. And I really hope for you and for myself that we can get back to a slower pace. Now, again, it's not to say that we can't have, some times like, I will go at a faster pace when I have to, right? Like when I'm working, but even when I'm working these days, I'm still kind of going at a slower pace. And I know that not everyone can do that. It might depend on what your role is or what your work is, but that's something else to consider too, is, my hope for you and wish for you is that you can create the kind of life where you don't have to go at a fast pace all the time, that you can go at a slower pace and still live a sustainable life, including what you do for work or how you create an income or whatever your situation is. So that's just what I wanted to talk today about. I just wanted to emphasize that I personally refuse to rush anymore. And I've been living like this for a while now. I think it was out of necessity. I could feel myself getting overstressed again, and I could really feel my symptoms flaring up. So for me, it really comes back to managing symptoms, but also wanting to feel as good as I can. And for me, managing stress is a huge part of that. And for me, slowing down, refusing to rush is a huge part of that. I hope that you can find a way to slow down and or just enjoy your life more, both in work, wellness, and in your personal life, professional life, all of it. So that's just what I wanted to share today. And also, one of the other topics that's really important to me that I've been talking about lately is really about taking your health into your own hands. So whether that's managing stress, because remember, when we manage stress, everything else gets better. It reduces symptoms. It helps us sleep better and deeper. And there's so much I can go into on those topics as well. I've studied health and wellness on so many levels. I want to give you a really quick tip for sleeping. And this can be related to stress, but it's also related to, let's say, the quality of sleep in terms of what might be stressing you out in your room at night. Remember to keep those lights off all the way, because even a little bit of light is going to make your body feel like it's turned on still, and that's going to raise your stress level. It's going to make it harder to sleep deeper. So I'm all about managing stress in different ways, cultivating that holistic well-being, taking your health into your own hands. And personally, I refuse to rush anymore, and I wish the same for you. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon. And if you want to check out my book, again, it's called The Memory of Health. You can find it on Amazon and also lulu.com. Lulu.com, you can actually get the book in interior color. It's a really beautiful gift version of it with beautiful interior color. It is on Amazon as well, and I'm working on the audiobook. And like I mentioned, I'm also coming out with an app really soon. I have a course in there that's going to be all about how to live well and thrive and manage your stress and improve your energy and peace of mind and clarity living in this modern world. So that's coming out soon. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.